This is The Toss-Up, where we take a look at some of the topics facing the world of college sports and give a little bit of the history behind some of them. We're not trying to change your mind, we just want to dive deeper into the topics that keep you tuned in to the teams you love. This past month, the NCAA suspended 5 University of Richmond baseball players because they took part in a fantasy football league. Yes, you heard that right. The NCAA suspended 5 student athletes for engaging in a friendly competition online. Not for cheating on a test or seeking out payment for play, they were suspended for fantasy football. The reasoning? Because the NCAA treats standard fantasy leagues just like gambling, stating that examples of sports wagering include, but are not limited to, the use of a bookmaker or parlay card, internet sports wagering, auctions in which bids are placed on teams, individuals, or contests, and pools or fantasy leagues in which an entry fee is required. So, in turn, 5 athletes were suspended for following an ideal already promoted by the NCAA. Why do I say that? Because everywhere you look, the NCAA is promoting bracket challenges and fantasy leagues of their own. The suspensions were absurd, and now it only adds to the list of odd rules violations in the NCAA. In February of 2014, 3 University of Oklahoma athletes were penalized by the university for eating pasta. Yes, pasta. Because NCAA bylaw 16.11.1.6 only permits schools to provide athletes with reasonable refreshments from time to time for celebratory events. And the pasta was apparently a little bit excessive. This rule goes hand in hand with another NCAA bylaw, better known as the bagel rule, permitting schools to offer bagels, fruits, and nuts to athletes at any time. This prohibited, however, offering spreads such as cream cheese or peanut butter with the bagels. So basically making it illegal to offer a student athlete cream cheese. In the NCAA, it is now illegal for rowing athletes to follow their former tradition of having the losing team give their jersey to the winning team, because this is considered gambling. It is illegal for a campus tutor to offer a student athlete food or a drink. It is illegal for a college coach to drive a student athlete to any practice facilities. It is even a violation for a coach to help a student athlete find a suitable apartment. The rules, they are everywhere. They are everywhere and they are remarkably intrusive. So it begs the question, does the NCAA go too far with its regulations? Now, let me introduce you to my panel. Alongside me, I've got Tyler Sorg, the IU University volleyball broadcaster. I've got Michael Tilka of the Crimson Quarry and Juliana Sherry, the broadcaster for the IU softball team. Now, guys, is the NCAA going beyond the means of normal rules? Juliana, what are your thoughts?
I think beyond doubt they are. To a certain extent, they have to set these types of regulations because, there's the age-old question of paying these athletes and preventing them from being considered professional athletes because they're supposed to be amateurs and playing here at the collegiate level. And as college athletes, they're not supposed to be given, free prizes or anything more than what they should be given along with their scholarships. However, particularly what you mentioned about the coaches not being able to help a student athlete find housing seems a little bit ridiculous.
Michael, what are your thoughts on the matter?
I think we on this panel agree sort of as a whole with Juliana here. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, and I believe that the NCAA does have some violations problems in the fact with rule enforcing and things like that. I mean, you're trying to help one of your students make sure that they have a place to live so they can still attend the school that you're coaching at. It baffles me by the fact that you can't offer things such as cream cheese or you can't help your student find an apartment or things like that. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, there's one rule in particular that I find odd, the impermissible entertainment. And this was something that the Oregon baseball team self-reported a few years ago. They took the team out for a dinner and they went and played laser tag. And that's an NCAA violation of some sort. That blows my mind. It seems harmless. I mean, you and I could go out and play a laser tag game right now and our lives would not dramatically change. So, I think there needs to be some sort of limits, but the NCAA really likes to strike that hammer down and show who's boss.
Now, when I spoke in the intro, there were a wide variety of incidents, but there are so many more that have reached national outcry and people have started talking about. I know, Michael, we talked before the show about Gino Auriemma and something that he did. Do you want to speak upon that?
Yeah. Back in 2014, during the Little League World Series, there was a player named Monet Davis. She was one of the pitchers, and she was very famous during the tournament because she was wheeling and dealing against all other boys her age in the Little League World Series. And because of her performance, Gino Auriemma decided to reach out to her and just say, hey, congratulations, nice job in the Little League World Series. Gino Auriemma was then slapped with a violation because you were not allowed to reach out to potential recruits until their junior year of high school. The kid's literally a little leaguer. I don't understand how you could be possibly violating recruiting violations like that.
Well, and one of the things that's kind of jarring about that fact in a whole is the fact that that's not even the sport that he coaches. He's a basketball coach. He's the women's basketball coach for the Yukon Huskies, and he's reaching out to an absolutely amazing female athlete of a sport that he doesn't even coach and does not have any direct effect on. And I guess you can, argue the fact that, UConn's reaching out, maybe it'll urge her to possibly go to UConn in the future. But that's hypothetical. He's reaching out to congratulate her on an excellent season.
It's almost like they're just restricting coaches from being just regular human beings, which is almost absurd to me. What do you think about that, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, the NCAA just loves to go too far. And to sort of go back to your point in the beginning about athletes not being allowed to make any sort of money, the North Carolina Tar Heels, they just won the national championship in basketball. And minutes after they won, the NCAA website is using players' faces as advertising. Buy our gear. Congratulations, Tar Heel fans, on winning the national championship. They don't make a dime off of that, yet the NCAA and the university are racking in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars off of those players' faces. I mean, to sort of go back to what Michael said, and Juliana as well, it's just a little ridiculous that you can connect a coach or someone of high status talking to a young athlete and connect that to them potentially wanting to go to the school. I mean, if Michael Jordan congratulated, Monet Davis, would that make her more inclined to go to North Carolina? I mean, it's just a little ridiculous.
At this point, it almost seems like the rules are just absurd just for the fun of it. I know, Juliana, we were talking about another story prior to the show. Do you want to mention that possibly?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Oklahoma with their rules violation with the pasta. Well, after that, they ended up self-reporting on a couple of other incidents just because they wanted to be careful and make sure that they weren't getting slapped with any other violations. And one of them, in fact, was the assistant football coach, Bruce Kittle. Bruce Kittle, he accidentally butt dialed a recruit. A recruit had texted him the day before, and he accidentally, dialed him from his pocket, and they ended up self-reporting that. They self-reported that had happened, and they got slapped with 4-week suspension from talking with this athlete, from contacting him in any way, and the athlete was also declared ineligible to go to Oklahoma.
It's almost so absurd. Now, I want to get all of your thoughts on this. Where do you think the line should be between the governing body of the NCAA and the student athlete? And should the NCAA be as strict as it is?
Yeah, I mean, whether or not the NCAA should or should not be so strict, I want to kind of look at it from a realistic point of view. The NCAA loves to have its power, and I don't see it as any sort of different in the way it approaches its athletes as, say, the NFL or the MLB. They like to have the power and restrict the voices of those who are under it. So should the NCAA make some violations to loosen up? Yes. But it was only 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, excuse me, that they changed the rules on how much athletes are allowed to eat. Prior it was athletes were only able to have 3 meals a day or get a stipend for what would be the similar value. And, I was listening to an interview this morning with J.J. Watt, and he was saying that he eats, 6 eggs in the morning plus several other things for breakfast. And I'm sure that diet is not that much different than a lot of these athletes here at IU or at any other colleges in the nation. So, the NCAA is making slow steps in the right direction, but to see the changes that I think a lot of us on this panel would like to see, it's probably many years away.
I do understand where the NCAA is coming from, and I do think they are trending towards the right direction. You mentioned, Tyler, the fact that athletes couldn't eat as much as they want, and then Shabazz Napier, after winning the national title with UConn, famously went on national TV and said, "We're starving." And the NCAA came out and said, "All right, you guys, all Division I athletes, get unlimited meals, basically through the university." And even another step, a progressive step I think they've taken, has been with NCAA men's basketball players being able to try out for the NBA draft, but still keeping hold of that eligibility as long as they don't sign an agent, which I think is completely fair. So although the NCAA hasn't righted all their wrongs just yet, I do think they are heading towards the right direction.
Yeah, I think, you guys give those examples, and I really think that they're moving in a good direction, but I think that it can, deter athletes a little bit. And, the bottom line is that these athletes do have a choice to participate in athletics, and they're making that choice despite all of these NCAA rules violations that come in and, the rules that they have to follow. But, there's so many. We were talking about it before, we don't really know of the rules until a violation comes about and we see about it in the news and everybody's talking about it. And, you don't know about these things until they happen. And so I think for the athletes, I think that right now there are too many rules that they have to follow. You don't know if, someone accidentally, someone giving you something, someone giving you a pack of gum, is that a rules violation? Someone who, you're in an airport and you don't have any gum and someone gives you a stick, is that a rules violation? It's things that, I'm not sure where these boundaries really need to be extended that far. And I think that they are moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot of rules that need to be amended.
And I'm glad you guys bring up these reforms that are being made. And it's important to note when we have this discussion that these rules are made by the schools and then they're governed and policed by the NCAA. But no matter what, I think we've come to this understanding that there needs to be some sort of change, at least more clarity in a general facet for all these athletes. And it's almost deterring their success being an athlete and being a student at the same time. But that wraps it up for the toss-up, and that does it for this week's show. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and our Facebook page at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. Toss it up and find out if we'll catch it. Until next Sunday, be proud and cheer loud.